have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Hey folks, how are you? Thank God it's Friday and it's a bloody cold one. Sheesh. I don't know where you are in your part of the world, but where I am in mine, which is normally reasonably warm at this time of the year, it's bloody cold. And we were only saying last night it seemed warmer than usual. Well, we're back to woolly winters, and I guess most of the East Coast is the same. I'm seeing that there was quite a lot of... Oh, that's a bit weird. I seem to have lost everybody in the chat. Now I've got new comments. Very strange. Okay. Folks threw me a bit there. No comments, and now all of a sudden there were. There was the first in the room today at 11:36 a.m. He did have an interesting question. Yeah, who wet the bed? Wasn't quite like that. Andy, you had a good go too. Yeah, look, I needed to be able to get this link out for the show for our guest this evening, so I set the show up early. So yes, it's been sitting up for 6.5 or 7 hours by now. So apologies for those who came in early and missed seeing me then, I guess. I didn't say anything. I just started the show. Aussie Sue, you are having a bit of a night out on the island. A lot of thunder, a lot of shaking, not a lot of rain. I've been driving around a lot today, and I have been in a lot of rain. It's been pretty overcast pretty much everywhere, but about 4 o'clock this afternoon, it got cold, like really cold. And I only got home maybe 25 minutes ago, and driving here, black was the only way you would describe the skies. And having a bit of a gaze down the chat, I see that Sandy, hello, lovely. It's persistently precipitating in your part of the world at the moment. So on the mid Central Coast, rather, New South Wales. Jan, thank you so much for buying 10 tickets in the raffle and a hoodie. And you hope the hoodie is warm because, although, yeah, ain't it bloody cold. Well, listen, I'm wearing the hoodie. I'm wearing the zipped up version rather than the windsheeter version. So it's warm. I can tell you it's warm. I did get one complaint from some fella who did say it wasn't warm enough. I'm not sure exactly where he was living. The wind cheaters I find are really, really warm. This thing equally as well, maybe not equally as warm, nearly as warm. I've grown into this, so I wear it a lot, as you are probably seeing. Here's Sandy. You tried to call. Yeah, okay. No, over the weekend's all good, love. You've got donkeys to look after. Don't think you've got to look after me, but whenever you're free, love to hear from you. You know how that is. Fuzzy, I saw your message here too. I'm really sorry for the loss of your friend's dog, and I know a friend's dog is our dog. I had a very similar experience with Achilles here when Cass's Malamute passed away. It was very, very difficult indeed. So, yep, they almost are like our own. And in fact, Kobe, Cass's other dog, is pretty much, I consider him my dog too. So if something happened to him, I'd be in all sorts of strife, I can tell you. Got some good news. What the? Your son made the Queensland school rep team and is going to South Australia in October to compete. I'll go to the next one because I'm thinking October, going from Queensland to South Australia, Aussie rules, but not in October. It's in a sport that is relatively unknown. Human-powered vehicle racing. It's a 24-hour enduro. I might be a bit basic, and I'm very proud for you and for your son, Walter. That's bloody great news. Please, if he wants to be a reporter and do a report for us, we'd love to know how he goes. Or if you want to do it, love to do it. Human-powered vehicle racing. Isn't that a push bike? Don't they have cycle racing? Or are we talking not the solar-powered race that runs from Darwin to Adelaide, but a similar kind of car, a pedal kind of car? I know I've seen some of these pedal driven human vehicle racing machines, and they are spectacular and capable of cruising at 100 or more kilometres an hour. So, unless I've got my wires crossed, love to hear more about that, though. And we will do that when I get up to the Sunshine Coast eventually. It will happen. I had sort of hoped it would happen this weekend, but the way finances are going, I can't swing it. It'll be just a bit hard. So we'll have to wait until next week and see what happens there. But I will have some time next week, during the week, and potentially the weekend. So we'll figure that one out. Hello, Connie. God love you. I hope you and Alan are doing well. The gorgeous Sunflower. I hope you've rested up after throwing around, however much stuff you carted yesterday, and your hands are feeling all right, darling. And my best to you, Rick, and the rest of the family. G'day, Phil. Hope you are doing all right, brother. The Cunning Linguist is in doing all the things that the Cunning Linguist does. So nice to have you in too, mate. And who else have we got? Oh, there's a whole heap. Tony, all the usual crowd. G'day, Paul. What is the price of silver? I haven't looked today. Ainsley Bullion are the people who I just hit A, and it comes up on, and $58.78, it says the spot at the moment at ainsleyBullion.com.au. And gold looks to have gone down just maybe $5 since yesterday is what I recall it being. The gold-silver ratio, always the number to watch, still on the way down, 87.4. I think it was 87.8 last night, wasn't it? Or 88. So keep an eye on that. There is well, I got sent a very interesting link today to a series of videos to do with why silver isn't where silver should be. These are on a different streaming channel. And I haven't had a chance to look at them or verify it or, give it a look yet, but I will hopefully over the weekend get a chance to listen to a couple of them. And I'll share those with you if that is the case, if they're worthwhile listening to. So keep an ear out for that one. I'm trying to skip down very quickly, so if I miss a few, I'm sorry, and I'm going to miss many. G'day, Margot. Hope you're doing well, darling. And, what was active tonight? Katrina, nice to see you in, and the Silver Fox as well. I'm trying to scan things. Hello, Peg. And I reckon I'll just about leave it there. Demonk. What am I saying? It's a new one for me. Right. I'll have to come back and have a look at that one. I don't want to hold our guest up any longer than is absolutely necessary. Tonight, folks, I've been plugging this now for some weeks. I'm just marking things. Wendy, I've just seen your comment. I'm marking it so I can go back to it and read it later. I've been plugging this particular chat now for a number of weeks because I think it is extremely important. It's not something I had given a great deal of thought of because of my situation. However, many of you aren't in my situation. Many of you are in a much different and I hope much better situation. When it comes to your relationships, when it comes to the relationship you're now in, and maybe this isn't the first relationship you've been in, wise, and do you have a will? Have you protected yourself? Are you looking after your family? Do you know where your wealth is going to go when you pass? And how is it protected? So using the headline, Protecting Your Bloodline, was done to make you think about what that really means. And I know in this particular area, most of us probably think about pure bloods and not being jabbed and all that sort of stuff. Well, this particular bloodline is a little bit different. And to talk more about it tonight, I'd like to introduce you to Grant Abbott. Grant, thank you very much for joining us tonight from LY Legal.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for having me on. It's a nice Friday evening, and I'm in Adelaide, so it's very chilly down here. I know. So it's when it gets into your bones. It's just one of those ones. But it's we've gone past the solstice, or the equinox. So we're on the way up. So it's going to be spring pretty soon.
Yes, and that's what we were saying this morning. Last night here was pretty mild. I mean, to a point where one of the blokes here said he was sweating, and almost spring. But no, it's gone back to winter today in a very, very big way. So, and I think it's staying that way right across through South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland, or the southern part of Queensland anyway, for the next few days. So,
yes, not going to be pleasant. Bon will tell you it's the warmest winter ever. At the end of the day, and this is going to be the warmest winter ever, and as usual, when you listen to people who have an alternative motive, it's you just got to be really careful. I think it's probably a pretty good precept, particularly for a lot of your listeners, is you just can't trust what's going on, and so you need to really do your research, do your due
Yeah.
diligence, and make sure you plan properly. Because if you don't plan, that's when things fail.
So I had a will made in about 1987.
That's not a will. That's a historic document.
It is an historic document. Now, the only reason I had a will made then is because I'd just been married, and my wife at the time decided that we were both going to go and get wills. So, as a dutiful new husband, you always try and do what your new wife says. So that's what I went and did. And that's the last I've ever thought about it until pretty much recently. Now I turned 60 before the year is out, and maybe I should be thinking about a will. Now, I'm not in my will. I've got nothing to leave anybody. I don't have second marriages or other relationships or children or all that sort of thing involved. So I'm probably not the ideal person that we're going to speak about tonight. But blended families and the legal mess you can get into with a will, even if you think you have a legal will and you've made it very clear what your intentions are, doesn't necessarily always mean that's the way it's going to play out.
Now, there's actually 2 points I want to just pick up. First off is, so I've developed a whole lot of precedents that have been quite, I suppose, the first in the world. So we were one of the first ones ever to build a digital will, so you could pass your crypto on via a special digital executor, and we did that in 2018.
Wow.
3 years ago, and you'll like this one, and it does apply to you. And again, I use a lot of AI in our legal firm, and I'd say we're one of the most preeminent legal firms around the world doing that. And we built into our will, not many people use it, is an AI likeness. So, for example, it's just gone down in Denmark, it's the first one, where you can actually, for example, you or me, particularly if we're personalities, but we can copyright our voice, our look, etc. And that makes a difference because, again, the last thing is, let's say something happened to you yesterday, and then next week we've got a AI avatar, or we've cloned you, and we keep on doing your show, and then we start pushing crypto, or we start pushing Trump coin, or whatever, and that's coming down the track, and you want to keep that sort of stuff in the bloodline, which is really important. So that's sort of the first one. So you may not think it, that you have much, but you do. Obviously, you build up an audience. So there is some gravitas and some value there. Second one with blended families, the way what happens is, and I talk with people, other lawyers in jurisdictions around the world, and generally, particularly over in America, it's and you look in Texas and the southern states. So whatever you put in your will, effectively, that's what happens. In Australia, it's not the case. And I just did a fairly large book on this, and wasn't large, but maybe an e-book on what we call family provision claims. They started in, I think it was 1972 in New South Wales, and they're deadly actually. So we might have gone down the track and done our wills, and we'd like this child to be left with this, or that child to be left with that. Or typically, I see people that's like, so I'd like to have all my children, to have equal things, but it doesn't work out that way. So there's laws in every state and territory that call family provision. So when family provision is, and you have a look at it, it's very, what I would call left-leaning or equitable, is that the person who has the least money has the most to gain out of challenging a will. So, for example, in New South Wales, 50% of all wills are challenged and 86% are successful. And that means, for example, we could have, and I'm just using extreme, but these are real life cases, that you might say, well, I've got a a son who's a successful surgeon, and then I've got another deadbeat daughter who's been an addict all her life, stolen money from me, and all that sort of stuff. So I've given her so much, so I want to cut her out of the will or give her a small amount. It doesn't work that way, because if she finds a no-win, no-fee lawyer, you're looking at potentially a 3 or 4 year legal case, and if it was like a $2 million estate, she'll probably end up with about $600,000 out of that whole process. Right. So again, the family provision comes before you actually get to the will. So it actually interjects itself in. Another one that's come in like very big in the last few years, because the legal profession is very good at finding its way to get to the Supreme Court, because as soon as you get to the Supreme Court, you're making big money. It's not just you; it's a QC or KC now, so on and so forth. So they use a concept called promissory estoppel that, for example, if and this will come more off, is that if you've got a child who's looking after the mum for the last few years of their life, and mum promises everything to the child, but in the will leaves like 50-50 to like the two daughters or whatever, that child's actually got an action under promissory estoppel to claim the whole house. So what you might think is going into will, and this also implies for intestacy where you don't have a will and then it's based on a formula, that these sort of claims are regularly made. And it's one of probably the most profitable areas of the legal profession. Normally, and I've been, we've got to get into blended families. I've been divorced before. If we have a look at that divorce, it's usually between two people and it ends after 2 or 3 years. But in an estate, it can be between 4 or 5, 6 or 7 people. So the lawyer's idea, because it's adversarial, is to get everyone to fight with each other, because the longer it goes, guess what happens?
Yeah.
The
lawyers win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole game of law, and people don't understand is the lawyers will win, and it's always going to be the case. And that's why, for example, if the tax office, so my original starting is with the tax office, is if the tax office wants to take you on, they'll spend the money to go to the High Court, because for them, they don't care, because it's the government money, our taxpayers' money, that is then fighting the little man. So I find that that's a tough one, but we can protect ourselves for that as well.
Blended families. So let's talk about that in a bit more detail. And I think most people's immediate thoughts of a blended family are, somebody, maybe a fella in his 40s, gets divorced. He's already got 2 kids to his first wife, winds up remarrying and winds up getting another 1 or 2 kids there. And the siblings become sort of friends, sort of not. They're a little bit distant, as these sorts of relationships happen to be. What sort of rights or what sort of protections could the father put in if he didn't, or if he didn't bear the 2 children in the second relationship? He just was their stepfather. And he wanted, being a successful person, to look after his own children first. Is there a way, or under what you're saying, given blended law, does every member of the blended family have an opportunity to, pick at the body?
Yep. No, actually, what you raise is really important. So I'll tell you what the law is, and then I'll tell you what the solution is. So the first thing is, in every state in Australia, stepchildren have a claim on the estate. And so it's a no-brainer for them to make a claim, or the children to make a claim as well. And again, remember, it's a family provision claim, so that when you go make a claim, you'll do an affidavit, which is a legal document that you put in to court. And essentially you'll argue, I'm destitute, blah, blah, blah. So the whole idea there is, the harder you look on, the better you look in terms of financial distribution or being in a really bad position, the more you're going to get. So that's both children and also stepchildren as well. So that's every state. In New South Wales, ex-spouses can actually make claims on the estate as well. Irrespective if they've had divorces, you've had property settlements and all, they can still make a claim on the estate for a percentage there as well.
For how long? Like for eternity after the divorce and after the settlement?
Yeah, no, there's a really good case, Kelly's case, which I think you'd find quite funny. Well, not funny, but a gentleman had passed away and given all his money to his wife. His children from his first marriage made a claim, which would be expected. But the court went back, or not the court, because what happens with the lawyers, they're going to want to, because it's a percentage fee, they're going to want to find as many people as they can. They went back and found the first wife from 30 years ago who was able to make a claim on the estate. They looked back, and it's in the court documents. It's like they went back and looked for the second wife 27 years ago. They were married for 2 years. She was Filipino, and the reason the marriage broke up because she was already married to someone in Manila. So that broke up, and he got rid of her. But the legal counsel still went and looked for her because she had a valid claim on that estate. So again, when we start to have a look at the blended families, and because I do a lot of work with Freedom Financial Solutions, and what I do is, I'll sit down, and if you've got a blended family, what we need to do is look at where your equity is, and if it's in your assets personally, and I'm going to come around to a really good situation as well that's probably going to apply to you. But if it's in your assets personally, the idea is then we can use some strategies to keep the name and the title in your own name. So you get the principal place of residence exemption, we get whatever tax benefits if you've got negative gearing, but we can shift the equity over into a trust. And once it goes into a trust, and we use family protection trust, it's a blend of what I've learned in the US and the UK with a long line of succession that also when, for example, the gentleman you're talking about passes away, he's got 2 children that are his bloodline, it splits amongst them. And that also protects them from litigation, but more importantly, family law as well. Because it's not only just what we've got, it's when it's passed on to the next generation. That's where family law can be absolutely devastating, because if we give a bequest to our children and they're a relationship, I've seen people within 3 days of getting the cashola that there's separation papers put on their doorstep.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I do know, I won't say any things, but I do know people who have married for the potential that their marital partners' parents are going to die and leave them a lot of money. Now, it may not be you, but the other one is also, I know, sorry, I'm blowing your mind. I'll give you a true case in 2022 in New South Wales, Calp and Calp. So Dad and his wife had been together for 57 years. So these guys were in their 80s. By that time, if you've been with one partner, you deserve a good bottle of Moe or something. Yeah. Anyway, he passed away, and he had been married before and had a child before, and all the assets were joint. And I think this is pretty important. So that it meant it automatically went. So he had cash, shares, and the family property all went to his surviving spouse. So virtually meant he had nothing because for the estate it was nothing. Stepson had an accident. He was a ski instructor, was in his early 50s. He was able to make a claim on the estate, and the court awarded a $600,000 amount to go to him, which meant the father or the stepfather was in a position that, or the stepmother had to sell the property, downsize, in order, and this is a place they'd lived in for 50 years or more, in order to look after the son. And the courts don't care because it's family provision. And look, I can tell you so many stories. I could even tell you don't. We're talking about wills now, and if there's money involved, I see children, with all due respect, going to the like New South Wales, NCAT, all the administrative tribunals, seeking guardianship over their parents when they're a bit senile, because then they can control the estates. We had one recently where there were a couple of kids who had enduring powers of attorney who borrowed $1.8 million from their mum. And the other kids, so it was a family of four, didn't get a raspberry out of it. So they ended up having a court case there. So I don't want to be alarmist, but unfortunately, we need to protect ourselves. Trusts are the best in the long run for us, mainly because a trust has, when you're a beneficiary of a trust, and when we build trusts, we build them for bloodline only. And it means there that beneficiaries don't have any assets to an entitlement. So it protects from litigation. If you go bankrupt, the assets in the trust are protected. And particularly second generation, they're really protected from family law. The other one that I'm going to throw it out there that we do is that a number of properties in Australia, most properties, in fact, are always joint tenants. And a joint tenant means, as I said before, with the client, that it goes from one person to the other on death. The problem about that is if you've got children who are really your bloodline, and then let's say that dad's passed away and then mum goes out and she finds a Brazilian toy boy, or she gets involved in another relationship, then suddenly they get divorced, then instantly the kids miss out. And that's what that sort of sparked me. And I see that all the time. In fact, I dealt with some clients recently that, and in fact, I'll be a bit blue here, but mum was living in Canberra and she'd had a relationship for a couple of years with a gentleman, which meant once you hit the 2-year mark, instantly you're now caught by the Family Law Act. And they were worried about it wasn't a huge amount, it was $800,000, but they're worried about their inheritance. And as a consequence of that, I had to move, because I said, well, is he going to make a challenge? They said, we don't know. I said, well, he seems pretty wealthy, but, what happens if he leaves your mum? And they said, well, mum's a tart, so she'll probably find someone else. So what we had to do is make sure the equity was actually put into a trust and was protected for the bloodline. And I think you have the British royal family, or the Crown estate, where does that go? Always to the bloodline.
So we've got a number of people already asking in the chat how they can get a hold of you and talk to you. The way that you can do this, folks, is to contact Freedom Financial Solutions, and they will set all this up and put you in touch with Grant. Grant's obviously a very busy bloke and doing what he does. So Mary Jane is in the chat.
I tell you what, I'm just going to be brutally honest. Unfortunately, the first edition was sold out within about a month. You can still go Grantley Abbott Family Wealth Protection. You can get it on Kindle, but a second edition will come out. You read that, and that's going to give you the download on everything around family wealth protection.
So we thought about this as a young family, a young blended family. What happens when mum's in her 80s and finds a new lover after dad dies, and that person has a 60-year-old deadbeat son who decides to move in with them? The original, if you like, children in the argument are out doing their lives, living their lives to the best they can, and mum dies. How can you protect your wealth in that way?
We can't remember. Let's go back to our philosophy: family provision. Who can make a claim? Stepchildren. So all they're going to do
at
is
any age. At any age.
Yep, 90. It doesn't make any difference. So what they need to do is, generally, most people, if you've ever been involved in litigation, it's very, very expensive. So what happens is, just go in, no win, no fee lawyers. Quite often they work in workers' comp, but this estate planning works. So for the next 30 years, the baby boom generation, which I'm part of, there's over $10 trillion of wealth being passed on. And why wouldn't you, if you're a lawyer, jump on that one? Because
Yeah.
all you have to do is, as I said, like the ex-spouses, you find as many people as you can, because what happens is when you do a case, so a classic one that I like to talk about, and I always talk about this when I do talks, is it was over in Western Australia, and there was a gentleman who passed away. He'd had an on-off again relationship with his de facto for 14 years. He left a will. There was a really old one like yours, naughty boy, and it was to his two children. Now, obviously, she was entitled to something and make a claim, as you would expect, under a family provision law. It took 5 years to get to court. He didn't have a huge amount of means. It was only $600,000. By the time it got to court, because everyone has to be represented, each of his children were represented by lawyers, and that cost them $90,000 each. The executor had to be represented, another $90,000. She was represented by her lawyer, $199,000. So by the time it came around that she was getting 40% of the estate, there wasn't that much estate because the people who took it all shot off. And the judge at the time said, I find it absolutely unbelievable for a case of $600,000 that there should be 4 lawyers and a QC flown in from Melbourne to adjudicate this case.
It's
And it
stunning.
happens.
Yeah, that's the thing. It happens every day. There are so many people I know who are watching tonight. Some I think have made mention in the chat. Some of the situations that you've outlined are obviously sounding pretty familiar. Big question is, do you work all over Australia, or are you only
Yeah,
based,
absolutely.
like you said, you live in Adelaide? But
Yes, I work in Freedom Financial Services. So have read my books. My other big specialty, which some of your clients may or may not use, or your listeners, is self-managed super funds. So I've been involved in that. Just go and do some research. I think I've got about like 200 videos on YouTube. If you just go at Grant Abbott, have a look through there. There's a lot of this stuff on there. Learn and go down the rabbit hole. I think the most important thing is that generally what happens is Mary Jane will do up a background paper, and then what we do is we get together about 30 or 40 minutes, and I just diagnose, it's a bit like a specialist. I just diagnose all your risks, and these are what the solutions are to that.
yeah,
And then what happens is we do a strategy paper. The benefit at the moment, because of our close relationship with Mary Jane and Cass, there's no cost on that. So it's pretty good because through LY Legal, if someone comes through that, it's normally $1,100 an hour. So you're getting a benefit there anyway.
well.
And then we have a chat. And then if you go forward, then it's a fixed price quote and cost.
Yeah. So it's and every person will present you with a different scenario, which will require a different solution. So,
Correct, yeah.
it's not so much a one sort of answer fits all kind of thing. It's nothing like that. So,
No, everyone will be a little bit different. Like I always use, and it's not, I might have clients or people who've been happily married for 50 years, but they're worried about their children. So I always use the story that my daughter Sophia, who's 26, she had a really good friend whose grandmother thought she'd do the right thing. So instead of waiting for a estate, she gave her a $2 million property down in Brighton in Melbourne. What transpired, and she was only 25, she'd been living with a boyfriend for 4 years who upped and left, got a family lawyer. The property had to be sold. He ended up with $900,000 out of that whole thing. Whereas it would have been a lot easier if the grandmother had set up a trust, a family protection trust, put the money in there, and then lent it at a nil interest rate to a granddaughter, because then when it came out of matrimonial property, there wouldn't have been anything there. So again, it's exactly the same deal because the granddaughter's got the property, but it's cost them an absolute fortune. And from that, it's also had a significant impact on her mental health.
Oh God, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it would be shattering on so many levels. Folks, if you want to reach out and set up an appointment with Grant and the Freedom Financial Solutions team, I don't have a direct email address that's best for you to go to them. So send it to me, Carl at vofhq.com, and I'll make sure that Mary Jane or Cass gets these emails and they will be in touch with you. So Carl at vofhq.com, and we will put you in touch with Grant and his team and the Freedom Financial Solutions team. Of course, if you've been watching us for a while, you'll be very familiar with the self-managed super fund solutions that they provide, and Ainsley Bullion have been nothing but wonderful in supporting that process for everybody who wants to go through. When it comes to let's just go back to wills for a minute. What's your advice? I know I'm not the only person who hasn't thought of a will since 1987. There are some people who haven't thought of them at all. Give me the downside of having either an extremely old historic, as you put it, will, or one not at all.
Well, what happens if you don't have it at all? Then there's a formula that comes through with your old will, because it relates to marital. It's just doesn't work anyway, because if you've been remarried before, so it's virtually like having no will anyway. What I do is most lawyers, well, 98% of lawyers will just simply say all my money is going to my wife. Then if she's not alive, it goes to, or he's not alive, it goes to my kids. And then if they're not alive, it goes to tertiary. So that's a standard one. The problem is there's no protection there, because if you put something in, and just as an aside, the protective mechanisms we use also protect your wealth from the ATO, the government, from everyone else. So, it's a broader aspect that we have to look at. So from that perspective it's a simple, but it's a very sophisticated will, is that if one of the couple dies, then everything should go into a trust. And then that trust will then, with the surviving spouse dies, it then splits to the kids, and it's vice versa. And if both die together, it just goes to the kids. But it means it's got that instant protection, rather than, and in fact, it's a lot simpler drafting rather than having it going first, second, third, fourth. So for yours would be really easy. It'd probably take me, if I had to look at what you've got, your assets and stuff like that, I could do a really good protective will for you and your family, particularly if you've got no, you've got no ex-spouses.
You could just leave it at no. I have no. I've got a car. I've got a daughter, and I don't own property. I don't own anything really. So
that's okay. But you've got your likeness, so it doesn't hurt. It's better.
I'm very interested in talking to you about that, because given my professional
career, it's the same as me. I mean, how would you feel if suddenly up on Facebook you're there, the voice of freedom is actually pushing the vax? Do you know what I mean? It's easy to do if they want to do that. It is. I've already cloned myself, so we've all got to be over the radar and understand. I think all of your listeners, if I can just be so bold, saying that AI now is getting very pernicious, and there's now agents. The tax office is trialling systems where they'll be able to do audits of 1 million people or more, at a time. And when you do that, you need, if you've got reasonable assets or equity in your home, you need to have protection, because if those guys come for you, they can spend whatever they want. Before, there's always been that process that you need to have a human person to do an audit. Now they don't need a human person anymore. And look, we all went through that COVID disaster and saw what would happen. So AI's got a fantastic side. It will cure cancer. It will do some amazing things. But if you have a look at China and all that, it's also got a very deleterious side as well. And we need to protect ourselves and our family and our bloodline from that.
get all the information, folks. You can get it through LY Legal and Grant Abbott, and the way to contact them is through Freedom Financial Solutions or me, Carl, at vofhq.com. I'll make sure that Mary Jane gets everything. And Grant, I'm going to be in contact with you about this protecting myself, given that
absolutely. It'll be really easy.
Oh, mate, I battle every day. I've got AI trying to steal my voice, given that I do voiceovers and all that sort of stuff. So,
I've
look,
got AI as I said, we were the first. I was the first ever. As soon as I saw AI, what it could do, it was the first ever legal firm in the world to actually include that in your will. So again, it's about what asset. And you're saying, look, I haven't got much, but you have, because you've got a population, a radio population, and you've got to protect yourself for that, because it is so, as you said, it's so easily replicated, because you have got a good voice for radio and for these sort of things. And if you don't protect it, then before you know it, you could say the wrong thing, and then they come after you. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Grant, thanks for spending a bit of your Friday night with us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's been a very informative chat, and I'm sure that many people will be reaching out to get more information. I know there are a couple who are bound to be doing so right now. So could we call on you in the future with more legal questions along this regard?
Absolutely. That'd be great. Look, my specialisation, particularly, as I said, I've written 5 books on self-managed. I'm writing another one, my top 50 strategies for self-managed. So for any of your clients who have super or self-managed, I'll show you how to turbocharge and how. And also find, like I deal, particularly for the older generation, they've been sucked into doing negative gearing outside of super, but it's 10 times better doing inside self-managed super funds. So whether you're younger or older, I'm more than happy to give you a few strategies on that one. And the good thing about that, it's not protected, and that's going to make you money.
Yeah, exactly right. And if we can get the younger ones into it, God, my father and mother both spoke to me about super when I was, getting into the workforce, and then unfortunately I got into radio, which didn't pay much, and if it did, the radio station either went broke and didn't bother paying the super entitlements, or the plug who ran it ran off with all the money or whatever. So it's not really a big part of my life, but I know it is a huge part of many others. So
look, a lot of people have made investments through. I can tell you, I've had lots of people that have got properties, and they've ended up selling the properties and putting into the money in the self-managed super fund and buying another property, because simply the tax is just unbelievable there.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Grant, thank you very much. I'll let you go and
go
back to your Friday night or commence your weekend, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Lovely to see you, Carl. Good luck, and don't get too cold, buddy.
Oh, no. I got my hoodie on, mate. I'll get Vince to deliver one to you if you need it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'd love to, and I'll get you one of my family wealth protection books too, buddy.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I would really love that. I would really love to read
autograph and everything. Perfect.
Excellent.
Okay,
thank you very much, Grant. Thank you. All right. Have a good night. Well, there you go, folks. Protecting your bloodline. There's a lot more to it than what you may originally have thought it being. And I guess we all have been guilty at some stage or other in our life of being made aware or having beliefs that are steeped in American law rather than in Australian law. We watch a lot of American TV, and we, for whatever reason, think that Australia has the same laws. We don't. For instance, you do not have the right to a phone call when you're arrested in Australia. In America, you may, but they might give you one here in Australia if you ask, but you don't have a right to it. There are little differences, and those little differences are things that count, and it's great that there are people working on our side of the law, like Grant and others, who know their way around it and who will help us step through it. And if you have taken advantage of your own self-managed super fund, setting up your own self-managed super fund, whether it be prior to Freedom Financial Solutions or through them, then I couldn't recommend the books that Grant's authored enough. Cass has spoken to me about them prior to tonight, and or it may have been Mary Jane. And these books are wonderful for giving you strategies of how to grow your self-managed super fund, not just sit there and wait for the gold or the silver to go up. So really, really worthwhile getting into. I saw a couple of questions about gold and silver. I think it was all explained in the chat. I think someone, whether it was Cass or Mary Jane from Freedom Financial Solutions, sorted out the questions around the Ainsley Saver account. For those of you who aren't aware, you can buy gold and silver in fractional amounts, whether you want to put away $10 a week or a fortnight or a month, or $100 a fortnight or $100 a week, or whatever you can afford. You can put it into your Ainsley Saver account. And yes, of course, $100 of gold is not going to get you very much gold, so they're not going to deliver a couple of flakes in your hand for you. What they do is they keep it in a ledger, or they have a bank of gold and silver product that they keep on hand at all times, and every transaction is covered. So your 15th of a dollar that you put forward every week into that Ainsley Saver account gains you access to another 15th of a gold bar that's sitting in their storage, so to speak. And when you get to a quantity that you own that you could go in and take out, let's say anything from 1/10 of a gram, 1 gram or a half gram, I think there are even those, through to a tenth or to a half ounce or to an ounce of gold. Once you've paid that amount of money into your Ainsley Saver account over time, then you don't have to leave it with Ainsley. You can walk in and say, I'll get my coin now, please, or I'll get my bar, or whatever it is. So it's covered at all times. You are 100% safe. They don't issue. I'm pretty sure they don't issue paper or anything. There will be an acknowledgement once you go through the Ainsley Saver system that this is your holding, and that is a legal acknowledgement. So I don't think there is any kind of paper trail. And Ainsley Bullion are among, if not the most respected in the business. They've been running for over 50 years, so they're worth looking at if you are in the precious metals market. And do not forget about platinum at the moment. Platinum is going off. It's outstripping everything at the moment. And for those, not that it's an Ainsley Bullion product, but keep an eye on copper. Just between you, me, and the gatepost, keep an eye on copper. Folks, we do have a lottery going at the moment. Sandy and the wonderful family down there at the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary need another bale of hay, and we would love to be able to supply the biggest possible bale of hay we possibly can, and maybe a bit more. Who knows? But we can only do it if we can give you $750. I know it sounds silly. We can't help the donkeys unless we give you $750, but that's how it works. That simple. It costs you $2 to go and get a ticket in our lottery, and you never know. One ticket's all you need to win $750. If you manage to do that, I hope you use it for whatever you need to use it for, but I hope you do something nice with it. I hope you take yourself, your significant other, your family, your friends out for dinner, or to the movies, or just do something you like. Buy yourself a little present, whatever. It's just what we want you to do with that money is make you happy. Doesn't matter what it does for everybody else, but that if you choose to share it with others, I'm sure that'll make them a little bit happy too. But you'll only get a chance to win it if you are, as they say, in it. So I'll post up into the chat right now the link, because I always get yelled at for not putting it in there. And if you click on that link, it'll take you straight to the site. We've got 467 sold as I look at it right now out of 750. Vince is going to ask, no, 487 sold out of 750. So what's that leave us? 23. So 223 tickets left. At $2 per ticket. Folks, if you can't help us out with that over the weekend, well, I'd be amazed. And let's hope by Monday we will be able to announce another winner of $750. That would be our third, I think it is, as we go forward. So I know the two previous winners have already received their Donkey Sanctuary packs, and I'm unsure. I'll need to speak to Sandy. I'm not going to dump her in it, but she may well throw another donkey pack out for the next winner yet. You never know. If you are looking for a little bit of donkey merchandise, you can get it at the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary website, just between you, me, and the gatepost, and they're a bit wet. They're a bit wet at the moment down there. Where can you buy copper? What a bloody good question. At the moment, I would say the only place you could buy copper is the stock market. It's not traded. You can't go in and buy a kilo of copper somewhere. Well, you probably can, but I don't know where, maybe a scrapper. But it's also a hard metal to hold a lot of, a bit like silver, I suppose. But yes, copper mining, copper production, anything like that, I think is worthwhile getting into at the moment because it is going gangbusters. They're opening copper mines all over the world. And apparently the only place they're not reopening copper mines is Australia. And we've got some quite good ones here, apparently. Anyway, that's what's happening. Lone Ranger's ass is the closest thing to silver. And on that note, we might end for a Friday night with a bit of a giggle. I enjoyed that tremendously. Well done. Thank you, folks, for your support this week. And I've been very lucky to catch up with a number of you this week in various different ways and means. And it's been fulfilling for me. You've really lifted me up. Thank you. You know who you are, the people I've run into this week. Thank you so much for everything that you do and for the love that I get in this chat. There are so many of you to name. Connie, I think I've just polished off the last of the soup, just letting you know. I think I did that last night. And it was wonderful, as always. And to everybody else who's reached out, making sure that I'm okay, I really appreciate it. I know that you see certain changes in me at different times, and that's just me dealing with a few of the things that are happening in life at the moment. And I'm very much of the mind that God does not present us with a challenge that he doesn't think we can handle. So I tend to leap into these challenges with vim and vigor, so to speak. It's a great learning experience. And sometimes, you trip over and you break your wrist when you're leaping in to do things. But I've learnt now, go a little softer, go a little easier, look where you're going. The same could be said for all of those dickheads on the road, but I've spent a great deal of time with the dickheads on the road today, and I've got to be honest, I only saw one real dickhead, and he was a slalomer. He came from behind and was going through 4 lanes of traffic like he was coming down Mount Buller on the slalom run. But that was the only dickhead, and I did about 500 kilometres today. So I think that's pretty good. The dickheads might have been having the day off. Enjoy your weekend, folks. We might catch up over.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!